Hi everyone, it's great to be here. My name's Rob Miller and I'm a chaplain here at Melbourne Uni and an assistant minister at St Jude's Church in Carlton, and it's my privilege to be able to help out with the Christian Union as well. And it's great to be here to be invited to speak on this topic of relationships, and I think this is going to be a great series just for us to really wrestle with some really significant things about relationships that are important in all of our lives. And today we're going to think particularly about friendship, and really we're using friendship as an example to start with to wrestle with this issue of friendships. So we actually chose it because it hopefully is not too hard-hitting, despite what Rob said, though perhaps in some ways it may be quite a challenging thing to hear. But in some ways friendships are not nearly as controversial and as difficult as family relationships and as romantic and sexual relationships can be. So in some ways it's meant to be a kind of soft start before we start talking about sex next week. But as I talk about friendships, hopefully I'll be able to make some generalisations from that about relationships and to show what I think the relationship revolution actually is. And the basic idea or thesis behind all the 5 talks is that Christianity and Judaism, from which Christianity emerged, Christianity actually offered a different vision, a new vision of what it meant to be a friend, of relationships and what it meant to be a human being in relationships. And Jesus himself in particular, by his words and by his actions, created a whole new paradigm for thinking about relationships. Both about the importance of relationships in human life and also about how to have great relationships in our lives. And so what Jesus said and what Jesus did with regard to the importance of relationships and about how to conduct relationships actually amounts to a revolution in human ways of relating, which is still relevant and still very much needed today. So I want to think about friendship today as a way of exploring that first of all, and just think a bit about how to be a great friend. And this is important for you guys because university is actually an excellent time to make friends, and potentially the friends that you are making now and that you're going to make in the next couple of years may well be friends for decades to come. And so you may well want to think about, well, what kind of friends would I like to make? And also, what kind of friend would I like to be? The unexpected hit movie of 2004 was a film called Sideways. And this is a small film, no actual special effects, a small film about 2 guys who were friends from university days. And one of them, Jack, is about to get married, and his friend Miles decides to take Jack on a little trip before Jack gets married. And they're going to go away for a weekend or a few days. They're going to drive through the wine country of California. And Miles' plan is just that they'll have a great time together, they'll relax and have fun, they'll be able to reflect a bit on their lives because both of them now in middle age, not quite as successful as they dreamed of being. And so Miles has these great expectations of what this weekend away will be like. But Jack actually turns the thing into a complete disaster. He's revealed to be this utterly selfish person. He wants to basically use this weekend away to have as much sex with as many different women as possible before he gets married. And the adventures of the 2 of them just get more and more absurd as the time goes on. And eventually Miles is having a conversation with someone else, and she happens to mention his friend, Jack, asking him a question about his friend, Jack. And this is what Miles says. He has a moment of realisation at this point, having seen Jack's behaviour over the last few days. He says, "He's not my friend. He's just a guy I knew in college." He's not my friend. He's just a guy I knew from college. And it seems to me that would be a terrible thing if 20 years from now you got to the point of realising that the friends that you made at university aren't really your friends, they're just people that you knew at uni. Or worse than that, that people come to realise about you that you aren't really a friend, you're just someone that they knew at uni. So how to be a great friend? What kind of friend should we try and be? I think at university we see a couple of different styles of friendship. There's first of all the fairly lazy style, which is just a kind of companionship in pleasure. It's based on affinity, where you like the same things as someone else, and so you hang around together doing those things. You're into the same stuff. And that's quite a good kind of friendship in its own way, but whether it can stand the test of time is another question. There are other kinds of friendships which are more intense than that, and it's partly because here is an opportunity at uni to kind of move away from your family, move away from home, and to kind of choose the people you spend time with, to choose your friend. The great thing about friendship is you get to choose. Families, you don't get to choose, you're stuck with them, but friends, you get to choose. And so for us who love choice, this is a great opportunity now to choose friends. But the thing is that in substituting, in some ways, friends for family, we actually placing a very considerable burden on friendship. That we're asking a lot of friends for them to take the place of our families. That is actually happening quite a lot. This especially comes out in the drama of the shared house, right? Because many people dream of this. They dream of this time when finally they will get to live with people they choose rather than live with the family that they were born into. And so here is this opportunity to do that. It's going to be fantastic. Imagine just living with people who are my friends. That will be lovely. That will be terrific. We'll have so much fun. Right? Have you heard this dream before? Maybe you've lived the dream. But so often, it all goes sour. Because actually it proves to be very difficult to live with these people, even if they're your friends. And because there's not the blood ties there, you aren't stuck with them. It's very easy, in fact, for those relationships to break down. So sometimes there's the lazy friendship, sometimes there's the intense friendship. What would a great friendship look like? What would a good friend be? Well, I want to look at a couple of examples from the Bible, which I think are helpful to us as we think about friendship. And the first is from the book of the Proverbs. The Proverbs are a collection in the Old Testament of practical wisdom. They speak about how to live wisely in the world, how to live well in the world. And one of the themes going through the Proverbs is how to be a good friend and how to be a good neighbour. In fact, the same Hebrew word is translated sometimes friend, sometimes neighbour in this book. And these Proverbs help us to think about how to get on well with other people, how to live in peace with other people, how to have harmony, and how to prosper together as a community. Some of the things they say, I think, may seem fairly obvious to us, but actually one of the things is that sometimes the things that go without saying still need to be said. And probably now is the time to say some of the obvious things about friendship because people are forgetting. Well, what kind of things? I've got 4 things here that I think the Proverbs teach particularly about friendship. First of all, great friendship is about consideration. You're starting at point 3 in your outline, I think. Good friendship is about consideration. Let me read you some of these. Let your foot be seldom in your neighbour's house, otherwise the neighbour will become weary of you and hate you. Whoever blesses a neighbour with a loud voice, rising early in the morning, will be counted as cursing. Like vinegar on a wound is someone who sings songs to a heavy heart. To be a good friend is to be someone who shows consideration, who's able to show some tact, some restraint, and some empathy with your friend. Someone who's sensitive rather than being selfish and self-centered. And it's possible for people to actually be kind of harmful in friendship, even if they're not malicious. The kind of person described here who gets up early in the morning and shouts out words of blessing at you. It's not a blessing, it's like a curse. And so the emphasis here is on being considerate. Or look at this one. And I can hardly believe that this one's in the Bible, but let's have a look at it. Like a maniac who shoots deadly firebrands and arrows, so is one who deceives a neighbour and says, I'm only joking. And you may know someone like this, someone whose sense of humour is basically cruel, someone whose sense of humour is damaging and hurtful. And a great deal of hurt is done in relationships by someone showing a lack of consideration through the things they do, through the way that they joke. And they'll often say, no offence, no offence, but their words are hurtful and cruel. So, consideration in the things that you say, in the things that you do. The second point is about challenge. Good friends challenge each other. Let me read these proverbs to you. First of all, iron sharpens iron, and one person sharpens the wits of another. Well meant are the wounds a friend inflicts, but profuse are the kisses of an enemy. The first observation here is that two people who are of strong character will actually sharpen each other up. They'll actually benefit each other in the way that they relate. Two people who have real character and real virtue in their lives, when they push up against each other, they're going to actually move each other forward rather than being harmful to each other. And more than that, the Proverbs say that good friends actually confront each other. They actually speak words which can be wounding words, but that they are actually helpful words to hear. And this is a challenge to know exactly what to say. But the basic idea is that an unwillingness to confront your friends is actually not a way of being friendly to them. You may think that you're being kind, but by being unwilling to speak about the problem that they have, or the wrong thing that they're doing, or the wrong decision that they're about to make, or whatever it is, by being unwilling to speak about that, you're not being a good friend. It's not kind or loving. So actually part of friendship is confronting your friends at times. This is not something that you do all the time, but something that you'd be willing to do when needed. And on the other side of things, being a good friend means actually being willing to listen to your friends when they confront you, and when they say things which are wounding to you, which you need to hear. And I think that this is a considerable problem in friendship today. I see very little willingness in terms of people being willing to confront their friends. And partly, I think it's to do with a fear of that kind of confrontation, a fear of losing friends. And partly, I think, just an unwillingness to kind of put yourself out for the sake of the other person, or even notice what it is about them that might need confronting. And I think that there is something of a generational thing here, and if I could be so rude as to criticise your generation. Now, I'm an early member of Generation X, and you may know about my generation that we're actually not much different to Generation Y, but one of our real characteristics is our cynicism. We're just cynical about everything, and sarcastic, the most sarcastic generation in the history of the world, the most ironic in the way that we talk, and that's our problem that we need to deal with. And I think I've spent many years trying to become a more positive person. What's your problem? Well, what they reckon is it's self-obsession, it's narcissism, it's an unhealthy regard for yourself, an unhealthy obsession with self. Now, I'm not saying that you all suffer from this, though I've read that 25% have a kind of clinically diagnosable narcissism in their life. 25% of this generation. And that means it's very hard for you to be able to think beyond yourself, potentially, to be able to see, and have the imagination to see how others might look at you, and have the imagination also to be able to be willing to risk your friendship for the sake of your friend by speaking to them words that they don't want to hear. So I think that's one of the particular challenges of friendship for your generation. Okay, the third thing that the Proverbs say about friendship is that it's about reliability during difficult times. Have a look at these ones. Some friends play at friendship, but a true friend sticks closer than one's nearest kin. A friend loves at all times, and kinsfolk are born to share adversity. Well, here are some verses from the book of Ecclesiastes, another wisdom book in the Bible. 2 are better than 1, because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up the other. But woe to the one who is alone and falls and does not have another to help. In some ways, this is the true test of friendship. That is how you respond when your friend is in difficulty. And life is full of pain and tears and struggles, and we each need help along the way, as Ecclesiastes shows. But here is the kind of crucial moment about friendship. It's very easy to be a friend during the good times, but what will happen when your friend is in trouble? What happens when they're unwell? What happens when they're broke? What happens when something terrible happens in their life? And so the real friendship that we see is the particular kind of friendship of sticking with people when they're in trouble. Visiting those people who are unwell in hospital, or sticking with your friend even when they're depressed for a long time, or helping your friend when they're in some kind of great difficulty. Those are the kinds of things where friendship is really shown. And I guess one of the things about this is that because our lives often at this stage are so good and so easy compared to what they might be in other parts of the world or at other times, our friendships may not be tested by adversity for many years. You may not know what kind of friend you have, or you may not know what kind of friend you are until that time comes. And so that's one of the challenges, I think, about friendship today. Some people in some places know pretty immediately what kind of friend they have because their lives are in so much trouble so often. But reliability, to be able to trust someone during times of adversity, is one of the key marks of friendship. And the fourth one is this, and it's forgiveness. Here is a great proverb which sums this up. Proverbs 17:9. One who forgives an affront fosters friendship, but one who dwells on disputes will alienate a friend. Now, it's inevitable that your friends are going to let you down. There are no perfect friends that you can find, and so it's only a matter of time before your friends somehow let you down. And the question is not, will they let you down? The question is, what's going to happen? How are you going to respond when they do let you down? And one way to respond is to keep an account of grievances, to just tally up and remember all the wrong things, all the ways that someone has done the wrong thing by you, and to use it against them. You may have seen repeats of the television show Seinfeld, and one of the characters on there, George Costanza, has a father, Frank. And Frank came up with his own religious holiday. Don't know if you ever saw this one. He came up with his own holiday in opposition to Christmas, and he called it Festivus. Festivus for the rest of us. And, among the things that were included in Festivus were the aluminium pole instead of the Christmas tree, aluminum pole as they would say, feats of strength. So they had feats of strength which mainly consisted, I think, of Frank wrestling with George. And the highlight of Festivus was the airing of grievances, where a whole year's worth of anger and frustration with other people to be poured out at once during this festival called Festivus. That's one way to approach it. You can save up the wrongs that people do to you, and you can use them against them. Or you can be someone who forgives. Be someone who is able to forgive others for what they've done and forget about what they have done and not keep account of wrongs. Last year's best horror movie, I don't know if you saw it, The Social Network. Because it was a story, whatever else it was about, it was a story of a friendship between Eduardo Severin and Mark Zuckerberg. I think that's the guy's name, yes. Okay. Their friendship and the story of the end of their friendship, which Mark Zuckerberg did because Eduardo at one stage froze the bank account of their company. And he did it for various reasons, very good reasons actually. But later on, in revenge for that, Zuckerberg, or the Zuckerberg character, insofar as it reflects reality, forced Eduardo effectively out of the company and took his name off Facebook as one of the founders. And why did he do it? Not for the money, not for anything like that, but simply because he was angry about the way, this one thing, this one affront that Eduardo had done by freezing the bank account. And there's a chilling scene in this horror movie when Eduardo says to Zuckerberg, "I was your only friend. I was your only friend." I just found it horrifying. It's a horrifying moment in that film. I was your only friend. Forgiveness is crucial to friendships. Okay, well, what about Jesus? What does Jesus have to say about friendship? Jesus doesn't teach about friendship that much, but in one crucial passage in John 15, he speaks to his disciples. He talks about them as his friends. He says, I'm letting you know what I'm doing ahead of time. I'm filling you in. I'm giving you the details. I'm sharing with you what I'm on about. And that is why I'm calling you my friends. So Jesus calls his disciples, his followers, his friends. And then he has this to say in particular about friendship. And it's John chapter 15, verse 13. No one has greater love than this, than to lay down one's life for one's friends. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. This is the essence of friendship according to Jesus. This is the crucial thing about friendship from Jesus' point of view, that friendship is about self-sacrifice. Friendship is about self-giving. Friendship is about acting on behalf of your friend at your own cost. That's what friendship is basically about. It's about making their troubles your troubles. And Jesus himself taught this, but it wasn't just talk for Jesus. He put this into action in his own life. So Jesus is the one who laid down his life for his friends. And he becomes in himself the great example of friendship. And in fact, he lived out all of this that we've talked about friendship today. His friendship was a challenging friendship. His friendship was entirely reliable, even though the disciples proved to be completely unreliable. His friendship was forgiving. That even though the disciples turned their backs on Jesus, even though they denied him and ran away from him, he forgave them. But most of all, Jesus actually gave up his own life on behalf of others. That's the great example of friendship. And Jesus is the great friend, not just a theorist, not just a philosopher about friendship, but actually the greatest friend that ever was. You might say, well, that's a great example. That's a fairly extraordinary demand to make on someone to be that kind of friend. How could I actually lay down my life for someone else? How could I give my life for my friend? And what kind of circumstances might that happen anyway? Well, it's not just a matter of laying down your life, but it's a matter of following that pattern of self-giving and self-sacrifice on behalf of someone else. And that's what leads to being a considerate person and being a challenging person and being a reliable friend and being a forgiving friend as well. But any example that we might kind of give of friendship in our circumstances now is likely to seem a bit trite compared to the sacrifice of Jesus himself. But let me try and give you some examples. And I was just trying to think about who's someone I know who's a really good friend to their friends. And I eventually realised the best friend that I know, the person who's best at being a friend, is a woman I know called Rebecca. And she's just someone who's outstanding at being a friend to her friends. Some of the things that I've noticed her do in recent weeks is she's cooked meals and taken these meals and given them to people who are unwell and who aren't able to cook for themselves. I've noticed her spending time with her friend who's depressed and letting her friend kind of pour out her troubles to her and not trying to, offer easy answers to that circumstance. I've noticed her making phone calls to people that she knows who are going through really difficult times and just listening to what's going on for them. I've seen her go shopping and when I go shopping, I find heaps of great stuff for myself. Are you like this? I just find it really easy to find lots of things that I like. But she finds things that other people would like. Even when she's shopping, she's constantly thinking, that's just the kind of thing that other person would love. This is the kind of person who I think is following the example of Jesus and being a great friend. I have the privilege of being married to this person, and it's great to be married to someone who's a great friend, but not just to me. So, I think this actually amounts to a relationship revolution. That real friends lay down their lives. Real friends are self-sacrificing and self-giving for their friend. And this is not just about how to be a great friend. This is also about how to be a great brother or a great sister, a great son or daughter, a great father, a great mother, a great husband, a great wife, a great boyfriend, a great girlfriend. That in all of our relationships, this is what it means to be excellent in those relationships. And this is what it means actually to be a truly human person. To be someone who learns to be self-giving in your life. To actually be centered on, not on yourself, but on other people. And this is the actual revolution itself is a reorientation of your thinking away from yourself towards others. This is the strange paradox, I think, that Christianity reveals, that we become what we were meant to be when we stop focusing on ourselves and start to focus on others, when we stop serving ourselves and start to serve others. That's a deeply challenging thing, an incredibly hard thing to do, and in fact, Christians believe that's something that can only be done with the help of the Spirit of God in our lives. But it's a revolution that's embodied in Jesus himself, and a revolution that all starts, I think, with knowing Jesus. But it's something that if you were to adopt it, it would entirely change, I think, your outlook on life and the way that you relate to others. Just going to have a very short break and give you a chance to think if you've got any questions. I don't think we've got any time for questions, but it might be good to have one or two. Okay. Would anyone like to ask any questions? Yeah.
Some time ago, I had a friend who I feel wrongly rather extremely,
Yeah.
and it was very hard for me to forgive him. And I'm not really someone who holds grudges, but this was kind of something that really big for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just I just couldn't do it. I'm not sure what my question is, but
No. Well, look, thanks for sharing that. I hope that what I've said today might give some clues about that. But I'm going to be talking about that in the 5th talk, so if you can wait 4 weeks.
yeah, I'm patient.
Because it's a really absolutely crucial question. What happens when relationships let you down? If you can't wait 4 weeks, come and talk to me in person. Before then. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
With one of the verses in Proverbs, like a maniac who shoots steady firebrands and arrows, so is one who deceives a neighbor and says, I'm only joking. Do you think it's ever okay to be sarcastic?
Is it ever okay to be I think you'll find some examples of sarcasm or irony in the Bible, yes. Yes, I think so. And sometimes that kind of thing is needed as a shock tactic. But I think it's dangerous to have that kind of default position of cynicism where your words almost always mean the opposite of what you're actually saying.
A common perspective I can hear is you've got to learn to love yourself before you can love others. How does that fit with what Jesus says about serving others, act like yourself?
Yes, you've got to learn to love yourself before you can love others. Well, I think there may be a very few people for whom this is true, where they're kind of deeply damaged and they need to know that God loves them and that they have value. But generally, I think Jesus seems to assume that we do love ourselves, and that's not something we particularly need to worry about, and that what we need to do is start to focus on other people. So the thing which will liberate us, the surprising thing which will liberate us is loving other people. The surprising thing that will change us and help us to become the people that we were made to be is loving others.
You know, when you have a friend, and that the longer that you're friends with them, the more you sort of see their faults. And like, they might not be faults, but when you meet someone and you've only known them for a short amount of time, you just see all the good things.
Yeah.
And so would it be wrong to say that it's harder to be friends with someone for a long period of time because you've got to continually, I guess, you're like finding those things that you might find hard to
That's
relate?
right. That's right. And that's why some people go from friend to friend, and why they go from boyfriend to boyfriend or girlfriend to girlfriend as well, because at a certain point you have to start to confront the things about them which are imperfect. And it's actually working through those in terms of challenge and forgiveness and all of those things that actually matures the friendship. Yeah. But it would be nice just to, have a lineup of new friends when you get tired of dealing with them. I think we maybe need to stop, or how we go? One more?
Yeah.
One more? Someone hasn't asked? Yeah.
Under 4 challenge, it says from the Proverbs, iron sharpens iron, so another person, blah, 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 sharpens another person.
Yeah.
I interpret that as being a scripture about influence that people have on each other.
Yes.
How would you contrast that with what Jesus says about when the blind leads the blind and they fall to the pit? That's also about influence.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is a fairly consistent theme through the Bible that if you hang around with wise people, you're more likely to get wise, and if you hang around with fools, then you're more likely to get foolish. Though Jesus seems to break the rules and hang around with fools, I guess he had no options really. But in some ways he does contrary to the advice. He hangs around with those who are undeserving of friendship to help us become wise. So there is a principle there, but in some way you're also allowed to break it. You just need to know what you're doing. If you want to hang around with fools, you can do that, but you should realise that there's a danger there, but you may be able to help them. I think we've got to finish. Thanks a lot.